Good afternoon. Thank you, Jessica. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear what Jessica had to say. I know she did the student welcome and introduced me, so sorry for that slow start. I'm hoping I can hear the other panelists. Today's program is one that we've done in conjunction with the Career Center. We did one last year. It was a great program, lots of wonderful information from students who are currently at KU or who have graduated from KU and all been part of the Dole Institute. So I'll be joined by 5 individuals today, and I will announce them in alpha order. Ananda Bhatia, Emily Depew, Paige Harding, Christina Osmeyer, sorry, Christina, and Mandy Snodgrass. So welcome to all of you. And what I'd like to do, and I'd like to start with Ananda, is I'd like everyone to answer all these questions at one time, if you would. Where are you from? When did you or will you graduate from KU, and what will your degree, what was or what will your degree be? And how did you decide to get involved in public service? Ananda?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be back at a Dole Institute event, even virtually. I graduated from KU in 2018 in December, and I studied political science with a Spanish minor. I'm from Overland Park, Kansas, and I actually really did, I'm not just saying this for the program, decide to get involved in public service largely because of the Dole Institute. I was undecided in my major for my first 2 years at KU, and I tried psychology out for a little bit. I felt like I wanted to do something where I felt like I could make a difference and thought maybe that would be working in mental health in some way. But started going to the Dole Institute just at the recommendation of my seminar assistant at the time, and absolutely fell in love with the people that I met there, the programming that happened, and really realized that politics was exactly what I was looking for, a way to make a difference.
Okay, fantastic, Ananda. Thank you very much. Emily?
Thanks, Bill, and thanks to the Dole Institute for hosting this awesome program in conjunction with the Career Center. My name's Emily Depew. I'm from a rural town in southeast Kansas called Neodesha. I just graduated this past May with a bachelor's degree in history, political science, and women, gender, sexuality studies, and I'll be graduating hopefully in 2023 from KU's School of Law. I began becoming interested in politics maybe around the 2014 midterm cycle, but I really became interested in public service in 2015 when I attended the Dole Institute's Youth Civic Leadership Institute, a program put on by Dr. Ballard, and that was a wonderful opportunity to learn about the insights into public service.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Paige, you're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paige Harding, and I am originally from Dodge City, Kansas, and I am now a senior at the University of Kansas. I will graduate this May with a bachelor's degree in history, and I've been juggling with the idea of going to law school. We'll see if that happens. I largely got involved in the political sphere after the 2016 election, like that sparked so many people to get involved after such a crazy election cycle. And I've been just hooked ever since. I started going to the Dole Institute when I was a freshman, and I also got involved in College Republicans, and I've just loved being involved in politics ever since, and all the friends that I've made and the people that I've met along the way. So thank you all for having me this afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Paige. Christina?
Yeah, hi. Definitely will echo. Thank you so much for having us back. I'm so excited to be here with my friends from the Dole Institute again. So I graduated from KU, with a bachelor's in journalism, emphasis in strategic communication in 2016. And then I also graduated this last May with a master's of public administration. And I think going way back, what got me interested in public service is my mom works in education. My dad works for the city of Colby, which is where I'm from, out in Northwest Kansas. And I think I grew up with my mom talking all the time about issues and barriers that she ran into, or even more importantly, the students that she worked with ran into, or the other teachers that she worked with ran into, because of policy decisions that, beyond talking to her legislator and beyond going to the state house, which she does have the opportunity to do in her position, she felt like she didn't have the power to change a lot of things. And so long story, that's like my way of saying she complained a lot. But she also said that there were ways to take action, and that's by getting involved. So she encouraged me to do things like Girls State and debate, and things where I could really hone my skills and learn more about policy and how it impacts us every single day. And then when I was coming to KU, I actually had the opportunity to be a Dole scholar. And so even before I started at KU, I had the opportunity to meet Bill Lacey. He was like, you should get involved in the Dole Institute. And then also a good friend from Colby was like, you should get involved in the Dole Institute. And I generally listen to people when they tell me there's a good thing. And so I did, and it was pretty much cinched from there that I wanted to be involved in policy or politics or public service. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Christina. Mandy?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I'm really excited to be able to participate in this. So I grew up right outside of Lawrence, Kansas, and so the Dole Institute has always been really familiar to me. I attended several events in high school because I was a political nerd in high school. I'm a senior at KU right now. I'll be graduating in May as well, hopefully with a degree in political science with a minor in global studies and a minor in Slavic language and literature. And I first got involved in the political process and politics in high school during the 2016 elections. I actually got the chance to go down and campaign in Georgia, and the campaign, bug bit me, and I've been involved ever since. So it's been great.
That's great. Thank you all. We're going to continue in alpha order with our responses if we could. So my second question is very, very simple, guys. What's your current job and what do you like about it? And for our two students who are currently enrolled at KU, talk about what you've been doing in the most recent elections and why you like that. So Ananda, we'll go back to you to start.
Great. So I am currently a legislative correspondent for Congressman Seth Moulton from Massachusetts. So I live in DC and have been with his office for about a year and a half now. I do kind of two of the main entry-level jobs that you can get on Capitol Hill. I have a combined position of staff assistant and LC. So I do a lot of different things. I manage the intern program. I do a lot of the entry-level administrative work. I handle all of our constituent correspondence. So, mail and the phones and a lot of writing back to people about policy and things that they're writing in about. And then I also handle a few issue areas where I get to write legislation, track bills, et cetera. And those are campaigns and elections, national service, and government reform.
Okay, Emily.
Well, I'm currently a law student at KU, but I also spend time working at the Dole Institute as kind of a side job. But one of the things that I've really loved about the opportunity to go to law school is it's really allowed me to think more critically about my public speaking, my writing skills. And I think that that's a really necessary skill and function that you need to have to be able to work in just about any setting. And so that's something that I've really been enjoying this past semester is reading some dense writing about policy issues or legal issues that have really helped me excel my legal reading and writing skills.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Paige.
So I am a senior at KU, and I currently serve as the president of College Republicans as KU, as well as the chairwoman of the Kansas Federation of College Republicans. So I am president of the board that oversees all of the College Republicans chapters in Kansas. And I also work as a staff member for the Kansas Republican Party. So the past year has been extremely busy. Lots of things that we've done in College Republicans, unfortunately, it got canceled due to COVID, as many things have this past year. So we hosted lots of debates and hosted social events just to try to get more young people involved in the election process and in the election cycle. So that's been a really fun experience. I've gotten to meet a lot of great people throughout that. And then with the Kansas Republican Party, I mainly work secretarial work. I answer the phones, do administrative work, as well as helping a lot with the counties and their reorganization process for this past year. So I've learned a lot. I did not know that there was this much that went into politics, and it's really been a great year.
Very, very good. Christina.
Yeah, I am the communications director for a nonprofit organization called Kansas Appleseed Center for Law and Justice. We are a nonprofit, as I mentioned. We do policy advocacy. So anywhere from the state house, working toward lobbying and legislative research, as well as impact litigation. And so I think, like, in my position, one of the best things I like is the people. We're a really small organization, though quite big for a nonprofit policy advocacy organization that does progressive work in Kansas. We're like big, but we're like, just over 10 people. So I really get to know my coworkers, and a lot of them are also Dole Institute alumni. So like they're friends from the past, as well as like connections I've made over the years as well. And I just like getting to learn and fight for things that I'm really passionate about. And it's honestly really incredible to win. I think when you do advocacy work, whether on either side of the aisle or either spectrum when it comes to policy, it's hard work. And it can feel sometimes like no matter what you're doing, you have a million barriers in front of you. But like if you keep at it, there are some very tangible wins that impact thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, depending on the kind of work that you're doing, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level. So just this last summer, we settled a class action lawsuit, for instance, with the state of Kansas to make sure that children in the foster care system will no longer be sleeping overnight in offices and will no longer be experiencing extreme placement instability. I hadn't worked in the child welfare sphere before my work at Kansas Appleseed, but over the years, I got to learn a lot about it and see this process from beginning to end as our communications director. And like, you can probably tell, I can't stop talking about it. So getting to do work that you care about, I think anyone will agree with me, is just like so invigorating, and it can be frustrating and hard, but it's all worth it.
Oh, I think Christina has really hit the nail on the head here. I mean, if you're in a job you're passionate about, it's not really work, it's fun. So that's great. Mandy?
Yeah, so like I said, when I worked on that campaign in 2016, I got bit by the campaign bug. And for the past 2 cycles, I said that I wasn't going to run any campaigns or work on any campaigns. And I ended up managing one this year and consulting on a couple others. So I was a manager for Willie Dove, who ran for state senate right outside of Lawrence here in Kansas. And that was a really busy campaign, involved a lot. I learned a ton that I didn't know about sort of the analytical side of campaigning. I'd done a lot with grassroots and communications, and had a whole new view of the managerial side of campaigning. So that was fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to keep the same response order as we go through these questions. I'm just not going to call on you guys. So just jump in, your order now. And but my next question is, what was your first volunteer role or internship in public service or politics?
Sure. So I, like a lot of people, started off in campaigns. All of my internships and experiences in college and right after college were with campaigns. So I began in 2016 working on the Hillary for America campaign. I was the fellows organizer in Kansas, which was a great opportunity because, no surprise, Kansas was not considered one of the hot states in 2016 for the Democratic Party. So there were a lot more opportunities, that also meant. So I worked with high school students and college students across the state, and we just did, all the simple stuff you do as a field organizer, making calls and door knocking and organizing other people and trying to turn out voters. And I just, like other people I've said on the call, absolutely loved it. It's so exciting to work in politics. If you're someone who likes a fast-paced environment, if you like meeting new people, if you like feeling like you're making a difference, it hits all of those boxes. And that was I didn't actually get into what I love about my job now, but that was my biggest fear about coming to Capitol Hill. I thought if I left campaigns, I would lose kind of all of those elements that I liked, and the fact that every day was a little bit different and Capitol Hill has certainly been a combination of all of those things as well.
I've had a few different internships that I've really enjoyed, but I think that the first one that was really impactful for me was the opportunity to be an intern in the Department of Justice in DC in the Office on Violence Against Women. That really connected my interest in women in politics and what we can do to be advocates for domestic violence survivors and so forth. And not only was that an opportunity for me to have a wonderful internship that I learned a lot, but it was also a great experience to be able to live in DC, talk to people who had the very same interests as me. So that would be one thing that I would highly recommend, is if you have the opportunity to intern in DC, I would definitely take that opportunity.
My first campaign experience was in 2018. I worked for Steve Fitzgerald, who was running for the 2nd Congressional District in Kansas. And I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was after a college Republicans event, and one of my friends said, "Hey, you should work for Steve Fitzgerald with me." And so I just said, "Sure." And the next thing I know, I'm knocking doors every weekend, making phone calls every night, and I just fell in love with it. And I met so many people. I learned so much about myself and so much about how politics works. And that was just really my springboard for the future. I was supposed to intern in DC with Pat Roberts over the summer, and unfortunately that got canceled due to COVID. But then I got the job in January with the Kansas Republican Party, and have loved working for them ever since. But I do wish that I had that DC opportunity. Hopefully I get out there at some point.
So y'all are going to sense a theme with many of my answers, at least so far. My first position in public service and policy was at the Dole Institute as a student outreach coordinator. So I got to help share information and work on promoting the events across campus. And I think I started that second semester of my sophomore year. So I think that would have been 2014. And then from there, y'all can really get enough of me. I think outside of the Dole Institute, my first internship experience was with an organization called the Barbie Lee Family Foundation, which I had heard of and was familiar with through the Dole Institute when they were doing their Women in Politics series. And the Barbie Lee Family Foundation is an organization that's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that does research on, as you've probably guessed, women in politics, so gender parity. And they also produce tips and guides for women running for office, such as keys to elected office and the things that women have to look out for if they're running for office as opposed to men because of gender biases that exist in our society. And then on the flip side, they also do, there's another office that I got to work with a little bit that does some more research that is partisan when it comes to women in politics. And so that was my first internship experience, but it wouldn't have been possible also if I hadn't been involved at the Dole Institute.
Yeah, so my first official volunteer position in anything political was the campaign in Georgia I worked on in 2016. And then I actually came back and had a very different internship in the Secretary of State's office, where I worked with the Business Services Division. But probably one of the most impactful unpaid internships I've had was with the National Down Syndrome Society in Washington, D.C. I worked with them and helped with a little bit of everything because it was, a generic internship, but I managed to do a lot with communications there as well. I helped them with their Instagram and social media, and it was such a fantastic experience. It gave me a different vision of policy aside from a campaign or an elected official's office, because I had several of those internships. And so it gave me a little different perspective on communications, marketing, interacting with people, passing legislation, et cetera.
Okay, this is great information, guys. Thanks. You're all doing fantastic. My next question is, what's been the most challenging or difficult job or internship you've had in public service or politics?
I actually think my most difficult job was my first, what felt like first real adult internship. When I did also do the DC internship program, I worked at the Partnership for Public Service in DC. They're a nonpartisan nonprofit that focuses on government reform. And I was there for 8 months on 2 different teams, but it was much more challenging than a lot of my campaign experiences because it was a complete shift in culture, I think. Campaigns are very, you're like eating pizza with each other at 10 p.m. and everyone's in sweats and you're all like very casual in the office space. But this was, like felt more like a corporate feel. It was a 9-to-5 desk job, even though it was still very service oriented. It was, I had to kind of learn the language of working in DC and learn a little more about professionalism in a way I hadn't been. I just think it was more challenging than to adjust. And same with kind of the technical work that I did. I mean, and campaigns are really interesting because you're mostly focused on just talking to fellow voters. But when you work in policy, or of course, if you do something like Emily and you're going into law, you have to dig in the weeds a lot more on the subject matter that you're dealing with. So I worked with tech policy and shared services, and that was a whole nother lexicon I had to adapt to.
I would say that the most challenging, not necessarily the most difficult, would be my job at the Dole Institute of Politics as the Student Advisory Board Student Coordinator. I know Christina also had the opportunity, and Mandy, to serve in those or that particular role as well. Sometimes what can be challenging about jobs, especially at our age, being college students, is, in that position, balancing being able to talk to professional people like Bill and the board of advisors of the Dole Institute, while also simultaneously being able to be relatable to students and talk to them and recruit them. And so being able to balance both professionalism and being friendly, and also just being on top of schoolwork. I think that was a really great exposure for me, learning how to balance not just life, but work. And that was a great opportunity for me to learn how to properly do that.
I think the most challenging experience I faced is with my job with the Kansas Republican Party right now. None of my parents are involved in politics. I don't have any family members involved in politics. So this is something that I've just kind of experienced on my own. And I did not realize how many different areas and how many different sides to politics there are. And in your political science classes, they don't teach you how to run a campaign. They don't teach you how to reach out to grassroots movements. They don't teach you all of the campaign finance laws and things like that. So just learning how to navigate that on my own has been a little bit of a struggle. But like Emily said, I'm so thankful to the Dole Institute of Politics because they bring in so many amazing speakers. And I think the best thing that I have experienced throughout college is not necessarily what I'm learning in my classes, but what I'm learning in those after class activities like the Dole Institute of Politics, like college Republicans and things like that. You have to go out and find those things, those experiences on your own. And I'm so thankful that I've met so many people and gotten to listen to their stories and how they've overcome things. And that's really helped me so far in my political career. And I know that it'll help me down the road.
I think this is a great question, and I've been noodling on it as everybody's been giving their answers and definitely resonating with a lot of the same things. I think like my current position as the communications director for the nonprofit I work for, Kansas Appleseed Center for Law and Justice, has been very difficult at times because I'm our first communications director. We're still a relatively young organization, so I'm our first person ever heading up communications and strategy and what that looks like. And not only that, I'm also our only communications staff. And so making sure that I don't overpromise or stretch myself too thin, or on the flip side, beat myself down when something isn't as successful or as easy as I thought it might be. I think for our generation, and especially for the folks on this panel as women identifying people, like we can beat ourselves up quite a bit. Like we don't always ask for help. We don't always say, I don't know how to do that. Let me see if I can find someone to give me advice. And that can be a challenge in and of itself, to like make sure that we remind ourselves, like, I can ask for help, I can set boundaries, and I can reach out to people on my team and outside of my team to make sure that I'm doing things that make sense and are going to like be really successful and energizing and effective. But it's hard to do that. And then like now add a global pandemic on top of that, where our communication systems have all changed. The way we interact with each other has changed. And I think we've done a pretty good job adapting, but there's always those challenges that are going to keep coming up. But then the times where something actually does work makes it all worth it. And so I think like for me, it's just making sure that I know that like I'm pretty good at what I do. And if there's something that I don't feel good about, like that's a-okay, because I'm teaching myself a lot of things, but I also have incredible mentors in my life. I have incredible teachers and incredible coworkers and friends that I can and should always feel free to go to if I'm experiencing something or sitting with something that I don't know how to solve. So I hope I got an answer in there somewhere, but yeah, I think that's been my challenge. And I think it'll continue to be a challenge, to just making sure I always know that I don't have to solve every issue myself.
Yeah, I think my most challenge, I think every internship, every job, and I think we can all agree on this, is challenging in its own right and in its own way. I think it has to be in order to grow, but definitely my most challenging position has been on the campaign this past cycle. One, it was a pretty mean election cycle. I think everyone can agree to that too. It was a very hostile environment at times. Two, this is my first time, like I said earlier, running a campaign. I learned a lot about the logistical, analytical side of things. And sometimes I had to learn the hard way, but we got there. And then on the other side, it's just, it was a crazy year. I had only ever worked on federal and statewide races before. This is my first time working on a local state Senate race and helping with state House of Representatives races. And normally people work their way, from some of the smaller races up. I kind of did the reverse on that. And I thought mistakenly it was going to be easier. But what people don't realize is that as your race gets smaller in size, you have less and less resources. And so fundraising was harder in an already hard year to fundraise. Grassroots, getting people to turn out when we have the Senate races and the congressional races we had this year. It's harder to recruit college age, high school age volunteers because they're either trying to deal with school being online or they're already been recruited by some of these bigger teams. So it was just, there were a lot of unexpected challenges. There were no parades. We had to really get creative in our way to campaign. And so there were a lot of new ways to grow I hadn't anticipated that made it difficult and challenging for myself as an individual.
Okay, my next question, guys, is going to challenge you a little bit, but I'm not going to ask you what's your favorite program and why that you attended at the Dole Institute, but I'll ask you what is one of your favorite programs and why while you were attending the Dole Institute.
Okay, I will not do the post-election conference because I feel like everyone's going to say that one, but that was probably my personal favorite because of just how exciting they were. The next one that jumps to mind immediately is one of the Constitution Day programs that I went to, where Chris Kobach was one of the speakers. That one particularly stands out in my mind because this was before, obviously he was already a pretty well-known figure at the time, but I, am much more familiar with him as a politician now after the, offices that he ran for afterwards. But it was what I loved about the Dole Institute was how refreshing it was to be in a place that was truly bipartisan, where both the students, the people who attended, the programs were all really carefully constructed to make sure that you really were able to hear, both sides of any issue in a respectful way, which is just so difficult to see now. And I remember that program very well, thinking that I agreed with a lot of the things that he said. And it would be polarizing for me to say now that I agree with a lot of the things that Chris Kobach said, but I really did. And I appreciated having the forum where I wasn't going to a campaign rally. I wasn't, hearing about his positions from fellow Democrats. I was actually we're talking about a specific issue on Constitution Day around voting rights, and hearing it from him directly. That stands out to me.
Bill, of course, had to go out of his way to construct the most challenging question possible to us. I could probably name off dozens of programs that I really liked, but you know, I think I'll do something that was really personal to me and just exhibits, you know, how many exciting opportunities you can have at the Dole Institute. My first year as Student Advisory Board Coordinator, I had the opportunity to interview Senator Bob Dole, and that was very personally impactful for me. It gave me the opportunity to not only connect with the senator, but it gave me the opportunity to brush up on public speaking skills, interview skills. And I think the best things about the Dole Institute is they really give people and really give students, people our age, the opportunity to interact with guests, the students the opportunity to work there and work in a position where you get to potentially email guests, talk to them one-on-one. And that's one of the most amazing things about the Dole Institute is that when you do become interested in finally graduating KU and getting a career, you're going to need those connections. You're going to need the option to use those networking connections you made while you were at the Dole Institute. And the Dole Institute is the prime center on KU's campus for networking, learning professionalism. So I'd say that's one of my many favorite programs I've had, but just generally speaking, every Dole Institute program really gives you the opportunity to interact and engage with the Lawrence community and potentially the guest speaker, which is really great for brushing up on your networking and professionalism skills.
So I have to agree with both what Ananda and Emily said. I love how the Dole constructs each and every one of their programs so that you get to hear both sides. And I also like all of the student interaction. One of my favorite events was when Carly Fiorina came for her book tour. And I like it specifically because when we took the picture before, I got to stand right next to her and talk to her for a few minutes. And I think about this every day that I should have printed out my resume and just handed it to her at that moment and tried to get a job with her. I think about it every day. I wish I would have done that, but I didn't. Another one of my favorite events was when Senators Bob and Emily Dole came back, and Elizabeth Dole, and I got to sit next to Elizabeth during brunch, and I could have sat there for days and listened to all of the stories that she had to tell. That was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I talk about it all the time, but I would love to get to spend more time with her, and I am so thankful for that opportunity. Not many people can say that they have gotten to eat brunch with Senator Elizabeth Dole, but so that was just really awesome. I loved those two events.
All right, so I had to think about this. I'm glad I'm like fourth in line because I get to like think about and bounce some ideas off of and be like, oh, they picked up on that one. I'm not going to say that one. But no, it is hard. The post-election conference, incredible. The constitutional series, incredible. But I think one thing I'll say like is my favorite is just like the authentic interactions that you get to have with the speakers or guests that are outside of the program itself. And so I remember, the Dole Institute, I hope you still do this when outside of COVID times, but y'all trust students and student coordinators to pick up speakers at their hotels or even at the airport and then drive them around to get them to the Dole Institute. And I remember those were like the most fun because I would pick them up in my Pontiac Grand Prix that I would always like ferociously clean during the day so that they would be like impressed with my 2006 Pontiac Grand Prix that like had hit a deer and all kinds of stuff. But we drive around and I remember like talking to them and like I tell them what I knew about Lawrence and Kansas politics and the different neighborhoods and like honestly like where the cool bars were. Not that I knew, but like what I had heard were the cool bars if they wanted to hit them up or something after the show and like make those authentic connections because that's like outside of even like the policy and the politics and the networking opportunities, that's where I felt like, hey, you know what? These folks are top of their game. Like they have peaked or hit peaks in their career. And you know what? I'm talking to them. I'm relating to them. Like, I think I can do this. I think I can be successful and go after the things that I'm interested in or passionate about or feel talented in. And I think that I could have similar success and maybe get invited to do speaking engagements about the work that I'm doing too. And so like, that was always like the funnest part for me, is just like having dinner with these folks, getting to drive them around, getting to like give them tours of campus and things like that. Was always so incredible. And then I will say, I did get like a pretty incredible opportunity to meet President Bill Clinton my senior year, which was, I know Bill's like, you're forgetting something, but like absolutely unreal. Like I still sometimes like I still am kind of like, I sat on a stage with me and Bill Lacey and Barbara Ballard and President Bill Clinton, like just us. And I got to like meet him and present to him an award, and like that was like something that just like still warms my heart. Like it makes me feel so incredibly lucky and just like honored to have been able to get those opportunities.
I'm going to kind of draw off of the personal aspect of the Dole Institute that every single one of you, I think, has hit so far, because it is such an incredible experience to be able to go to somewhere on campus and you're sitting next to a former president or a former ambassador or a current ambassador. And I think I'm going to take a little different route. My favorite event per se is actually the discussion group series. I have had, just incredible interactions with people I would have never met otherwise in such a personal setting where, it's a small group, you're able to ask questions and then, talk to them afterwards for however long and just make great connections. Some of them are giving their phone numbers, their emails, have offered to either mentor or stay in touch. Especially if I go to DC, a lot of them have offered to, meet up for coffee and help connect me where I want to be. And that's such a unique opportunity that doesn't really exist anywhere else. I think to that degree of intimacy at KU, I would go so far to say. So that's been an awesome opportunity, an awesome series to be involved in.
Okay, my next question, ladies, is how did you prepare yourself during college, your time at KU, for success in public service?
I think the Dole Institute was so instrumental in finding my career in public service. Absolutely. Not just the inspiration for wanting to go into it, but also just preparing for what life is like once you're in post-college world. The Dole Institute does a great job of preparing you for that. There's so many of the interns that I manage now who have just never had exposure to like a simple networking event or like a nice dinner where you're supposed to try to get someone's business card, and are very uncomfortable in those kinds of interactions. And I had plenty of times I got to practice that at the Dole Institute. Etiquette classes from Dr. Ballard, all of those were incredibly helpful. I think the biggest other thing in college that was just so important that, of course, I'm sure everyone else will echo, is just getting really involved outside of your classes. Nobody is super impressed by saying that you have a political science degree, but everyone really cares about seeing, those hard experiences that you get. So intern, get involved, join KU Young Democrats or College Republicans, take on a leadership role with them, volunteer on every campaign. You get the chance to volunteer with a local nonprofit. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you and offer you opportunities if you are really proactive and seek them. So reach out and ask for to get a coffee and to see if they have any opportunities, just anyone who is of interest to you. And starting small is a really easy way to build to bigger opportunities quickly.
I would say that one of the most helpful things that I did while I was an undergraduate at KU was preparing myself and goal setting. Whether it was just in my mind or on my agenda, I always tried to set goals for myself, whether it was for that year, maybe by the time I graduated, maybe what I wanted to do the next summer, but constantly thinking ahead and picturing yourself where you want to be, and then actually figuring out a way how to get there. I really think that that's one of the most helpful things that I did in undergraduate to become successful, is to picture myself where I wanted to be and then actually sit myself down and figure out what type of hard work that I needed to put in to get myself there.
The thing that I've done that I think has benefited me the most is that I just go to all of these events. I was telling everyone earlier that when I was a freshman, a girl in my class was telling me about the student advisory board, and I said, hey, that's something I would be interested in. So I went to a meeting all alone by myself. I didn't know anyone. It was really awkward, but then I made friends a couple meetings later. I've just tried to take advantage of every single opportunity that KU has had to offer, whether that's mocktails and mingle, the networking events that the Alumni Association puts together, College Republicans. KU just puts together so many programs, and I know that we haven't had as many with COVID lately, and they're not as exciting on Zoom, but just at those programs that I've gone to, I've met so many people and learned so many things. I've just tried my hardest to make connections, make new friends, get that network really strong. And that's my biggest thing that I've done that I think has helped me. And I think it will help lots of people as well. Just get out there, just put yourself out there and find what you love.
Definitely piggybacking on Ananda's point, like the Dole Institute is, yes, a part of the University of Kansas. Yes, it's on campus, but the Dole Institute is one of those places and organizations to be involved in that actually was just as much as a part of the Lawrence community and the Kansas community as it was a part of the KU community. And so I think like expanding your horizons beyond just your classes, though I had incredible professors and classes as well, but expanding your horizons and getting involved in the community that you're in, even if you're a student and you're not from that actual community. Like if you're going to work in policy and if you're going to work in politics, and especially policy, the decisions you make impact people, they impact your community. And so you have to know them, you have to know their needs, you have to have relationships with folks. And that's something that I'm still learning, is how to build those authentic relationships within my community, so that I, can be a really, not even an advocate, but also just like make sure that I'm uplifting the voices that need to be heard when we're talking about decisions that will impact them. And I think like at the Dole Institute, we met folks and gained mentors, gained friends who could tell us about what was going on in Lawrence, what was going on in Kansas politics. Because I think when you're a student at a university, and especially if you're remote right now, you can definitely be in a bubble. The bubble that is just your classes, just your friends, and just the work that's going on campus. And that's so important. But there's so much that exists beyond that bubble. And I was also lucky that the organization I work for is headquartered in Lawrence. And so I really got to be a part of the community. And I was so thankful that while I was an undergrad, the only people I knew weren't just on campus. They were members of the community who had lived there for years and years and years before that. And so it wasn't like I was just becoming a new member of this town once I graduated. I already knew and had friends that were part of the Lawrence community as well, so that I could feel like I was a part of the community and not just some student that had graduated and was trying to find my way. So community is incredibly important. Get off campus if you can.
So for me personally, I am the furthest thing from type A. I am not a naturally very organized person. I am annoyingly outgoing. And so you put all that together in college, and I could talk for a long time about involvement. I've dabbled in a lot of things. I've been involved in a lot of groups, organizations, events. But I think one of the most important things, or a couple of the most important things I've learned from that's prepared me for a career, specifically in policy and politics, but really any career I decided to go into, is sort of the underlying lessons that are in all of those classes, events, clubs. And that is, for me personally, is how to finish things, especially when I lose interest in them or I don't enjoy them. and how to just make it happen, which I guess kind of work off each other. But it was really easy for me to get involved in a group or an event and be really excited about it for a while. And then I sort of lose interest in it, or I reach a certain goal, or I don't really see the purpose in reaching an end goal when I have to go through so many things that are, maybe not as interesting, not as exciting. And so learning how to just push through those things and finish a project, try to achieve a good grade in school, reach a certain level or a certain position, or get elected to a certain club office, whatever it may be. For me, it was learning how to just frankly suck it up and deal with it and get where I needed to be despite my personality and my, inclinations, just wanting to fight that. And that has proven to be so much more effective. And it's come through a lot of routes once I was really honest about that flaw in myself and recognized those things. And I looked at myself in those different events and saw that it's really helped me a lot through the campaigns, through different jobs I've had. And it's helped me kind of identify that weakness in myself and be able to achieve that, overcoming that.
Okay, I have one more question for our panelists today, but I wanted to let the audience know that if you have questions, please post them in the chat area on YouTube. And please start doing that right now. We'll get to your questions very shortly after one more question. My final question, guys, all of you are established in public service now or politics, even the three of you who are still students. But what advice would you give to students looking to get involved in public service?
Yeah, I think use the people around you who are there to be helpful to you. That's a great part about a university. So like I said before, while you're at KU, talk to your professors, absolutely. Use the alumni mentoring network. That's actually how I got my job in DC, is reaching out to some people through the alumni mentoring network. Talk to people at the Dole Institute and tell them that you're interested in getting involved. Let them know, what your interests are, learn more about what they did to get involved in their current positions. And then just take that first step of having those conversations. And I think you'll find opportunities will sort of find you. And then I think just starting to get involved with just, again, local clubs on campus or places where they're already doing the work for you of coming up with events and coming up with opportunities. That's what's so great about not just the Dole Institute, but these other groups like the Young Dems and the College Republicans. There should be sending you information about, here are different things you can do to volunteer. Here are small ways you can get involved. And it's usually through those small things you do to get started where those bigger opportunities come from. So taking that first step is the number one thing you can do.
While I think networking is very important, I cannot stress enough, find a mentor, find a mentor, find a mentor. For anything that you're interested in, go out and find someone who can not only educate you, but take you along with them, whether it's in a job where they may really like how you work. Maybe they transfer to a bigger, better position and they may offer to go along with you. Maybe you need a mentor for your personal life that will help guide you with the stresses of the work, personal life balance, or, another important mentor that I think really helped shape me as a person was as a student, find a student mentor. I remember when I was a freshman in college, there was someone named Cody Christensen who worked at the Dole Institute. And I remember he had told me that, he just got done interning at the White House and he was the leader of the KU Dole Institute student group. And I was like, well, I want to be like him. And from that moment on, I was able to talk to him and kind of view him as a mentor. And I think the same thing kind of happened with Mandy and I. Mandy and I met in DC. I told her, you need to come to the Dole Institute. You really need to get involved on this on campus. And she did. So not just finding mentors for certain careers that you may want, which is very important, but find a mentor for right now in your life as a student. I think that's very valuable and really important for your success.
My answer was going to be to find a mentor, but I think Emily just covered that. The other thing I would say is just don't give up. about a week before the election. Actually, Mandy was in the office and there were a bunch of staffers, campaign staffers in our office, and we were all sitting around and talking. And one of my friends said, you know, we're really doing this because each of one of us really deeply cares about people and really deeply cares about making a difference in our world and helping people. And I think that really is the underlying root of every single person that's involved in politics. We want to make a difference. We want to change the world. We want to do what's best for people. So it gets really, really tough, whether that's finding a job that you like, or feeling like you're not good enough in the job that you are, that you might not have the skills, or if you feel like you just can't win after you have a rough campaign cycle and you think, oh my gosh, we just can't get it. What do we need to do next year? So I think just don't give up, because you know that you want to change the world and you want to make the difference and you want to help people. So just don't give up and keep fighting for that.
Yeah, incredible points. I think mentorship, networking are all like really incredibly important. Getting involved in organizations like the Dole Institute or organizations in the community around campus can help you kind of identify. I know I probably joined a dozen clubs and went to a couple meetings before I like really found the ones that stuck. And I was like, this is what I want to commit myself to. This is the thing I'm passionate about. So I think definitely just doing the research. I know we're all remote for the most part right now. Many of us might be back home in maybe rural communities or larger communities. If there's issues that you're really passionate about, I'm sure there might be folks in your state or at the local level organizing or involved in those issues that might even have weekly meetings. I know I go to a few, quite a few meetings during the weekend and during the weeknight outside of work for issues that I'm really passionate about. And so you can just look on Facebook or social media. I know a lot of folks don't even use Facebook anymore. So maybe Instagram or Twitter, and get involved in your community as much as possible. And I also will say my experience as a white, cisgendered, economically advantaged, neurotypical person, the things that work for me might not work for everyone, right? And so know yourself, know how to express your needs, and know what you want to go for. And then when you do find people who believe in you, because they should believe in you, make sure that they're there to lift you up. And also, if you are a white person or someone who's maybe not directly impacted by something that you're working on or really passionate about, know when to take leadership from other people too, because people have the solutions. And so if you know how to also just put in hard work and put in value and, put your passion toward things that other folks are doing that's really kicking butt out there to change the world and, realize the visions that we all want for this world, that's also a really incredible way to contribute as well. So I would just say, start doing the research if you can, or if you already know organizations or people that you think are tight, reach out. Most of the time, if someone is hey, Christina, I really like the work you're doing, I'd love to grab coffee or virtual coffee, I have zero reasons to say, no. Of course I want to get coffee with you and talk about the challenges as well as the incredible things that I've gotten to do. And I'm sure everybody else is not everybody else, but many people will feel very similarly. So don't be afraid to reach out. And also, if they don't get back to you, don't let that hurt you either. Just keep going and believe in yourself. That sounds pretty cliche, but I have to tell myself that all the time. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
That was awesome. No, I have a couple quick things. We're kind of all hammering on networking, but I would say don't be afraid to go talk to people you don't know. Don't be afraid to show up at an event that you don't know anybody at. You can be afraid, just get over it and go do it. And then talk to people while you're there. People are so willing to open doors nowadays for young people who are willing to work hard and make things happen. So let them open doors for you and give yourself the opportunity to meet them to make that happen. The second thing I would say is that there's a fine line between being confident in yourself and your abilities and just having a blatant disregard for your need to learn at times. And so you need to have confidence in yourself and what you do know. If you're good at something, own it, absolutely. But be able to learn, because you'll never know everything. There will always be someone who's better than you. And especially when you're young and in college, you want to be able to carry yourself with an air that says, I know what I'm doing, but fake it till you make it's a real thing. And just be sure that you're able to absorb information, learn how to take criticism if you don't take criticism well. When it's offered with kindness, and people who you work for typically care about you, let them give you feedback, let them give you criticism, take that, run with it, become better. Because if you're putting yourself at a bar where you think that you're at your best, that's where you're going to stay your whole life. So definitely get to know people, let them open doors for you, work hard for those doors, and then learn to grow, even if it's a little bit painful at times.
We're going to go to audience Q questions now, and I would just encourage the audience. You're hearing some amazing stories from some individuals who've had these incredible experiences. So take advantage, send us some questions. Our first question is from Brendan, and Brendan asks, who or what? Sorry, my phone just went black. Brendan asks, who or what is the best resource to get in touch with to get a politically oriented internship? And how can I get involved with the Dole Institute?
Are we going free form, or should we still go in the
however you guys would like to do it? I'd prefer that all 5 of you answer. So let's go free form from now on.
Free form. If we're going free form, I'll jump in there real quick because I'm the current SAB coordinator. So first of all, thank you for your question. Really excited that you're interested. If you are interested, you can just email, and this goes for anyone watching, dolesab@ku.edu, or go to the Dole Institute website and get signed up. We'll get you on the email list. You can contact us. We can put you in touch with local legislators. You can also contact the KU Department for Political Science, and a lot of times they have internship opportunities, dual credit there. But I can definitely get you on board with the Student Advisory Board if you just shoot us an email there.
I think our last meeting of the semester is today, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. The last SAB meeting is tonight at 5:30. Mm-hmm. So I can get you on that too.
I can jump in really quickly to discuss maybe where to find political internships. I'd say the very first step you should take is figure out what you're interested in. My first internship, I think I already said this, was in the Department of Justice in DC in the Office on Violence Against Women. So I knew I was interested in law, and I knew I was interested in how law and politics impacts women. So I just honestly, one day over Christmas break, I probably spent 10 hours just searching for internships that met that intersection for me. And once I was able to find that, I was able to look at what the application materials requested. And then I said to myself, how can I get this? Look for people who may be good letters of rec or networking, people you've met through networking in the past. So I'd say first figure out exactly what you want, and that can largely be done on your own. And then figure out, with relying on other people, how can I get it? How can I secure that internship? And the Dole Institute's a really great place to make those connections for references or letters of recommendation.
Yeah, I'd say absolutely depends on what kind of internship you're looking for, where in the field. I'd say, like, if you want to work on campaigns, I know the KU Young Democrats can connect you with the Kansas Democratic Party. I'm sure the college Republicans can do the same for the Republican Party. Like I've mentioned before, really strongly recommend the KU Alumni Mentoring Network. You can search by city, so you can talk to people in Lawrence or in DC or elsewhere. And those are often fellow Jayhawks who are interested in helping you out, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. If you're interested in working on Capitol Hill or in DC, those jobs or internships especially, it really makes a difference to have a reference or a connection. So if you've never been to DC, KU's program is incredible. Their political science department does a great job running that KU DC internship program. So they have people who work in DC who are more than willing to help you look for internships. You can also reach out to me and I can connect you, regardless of your political party, to other offices on Capitol Hill. Just finding the people who work in those fields is a great way to start.
Absolutely. And in addition to all of that advice that had already been given, also don't be afraid to work with people on your resume, your cover letter, to make sure that you come off authentic, and that it's like looks good. You know, I probably, when I apply for jobs, I make sure like 5 people are looking at my resume and my cover letter, making sure that like I don't oversell myself, but I like sell myself enough, you know? And then also like and what Emily said, definitely hone in on what your interests are. So if you are still figuring out, that's okay. But start looking into, I'm kind of coming from the policy side and not as much the politics side of things, but there are organizations all over the country, as well as in Kansas, that might do specific work around the policy issue that you're passionate about. And so it's always good to keep checking those websites, follow them on social media accounts so that you know what they're up to. So even if they're not hiring for interns right then, you might be able to reach out and say, hey, I've been following your work for a while. I love what you're doing. I was curious if you might have internship opportunities coming up. If not, I'd love to volunteer. You know, and a lot of organizations, they might say, oh, shoot, we don't have an internship opportunity coming up, but we do have this volunteer project, and you've built a relationship already so that when they do have an internship or even a full-time position open up, they're like, I know that person. That person has been following our work. They're familiar with us. They showed a lot of initiative by reaching out to us a while ago. I definitely want to give them an interview. Also, if you can, look for paid internships, because y'all deserve to get paid for your labor. But I know that in the policy and politics world, those aren't always as robust or, you know, available. But definitely look for those as well, because they do exist.
I'll give a little plug for College Republicans real quick since I have the chance. So there are a ton of internship and job opportunities coming up since we will be getting into session here in the upcoming months. And one of my main priorities has been to connect students with these types of opportunities. So I get about 3 or 4 emails a day of people that are needing student interns. So, and I always send those out pretty much like every week or every other week. So if you're interested in that, you can check out College Republicans.
Okay, our next question, guys, is from, and I hope I pronounce this name correctly, Josue. Josue asks, are there any recommendations for international students studying political science at KU? That's kind of a tough one. I'm not sure any of you have been in international studies. I'm not sure.
A little bit to that. Hopefully I can do this question a little bit of justice. I'm not sure if you're interested in domestic politics or international or comparative politics, but I think regardless, this suggestion will stand for you. One of the best opportunities that the political science department has to offer besides the DC internship program is an opportunity to write a senior thesis. And conduct research. And I had the opportunity this past year to write a research paper over the intersection of women's organizations and Brexit in conjunction with, of course, UK's split from the EU. And I'd say that's a really good opportunity, regardless, like I said, if you're interested in domestic or international politics, to really reach out and meet with professors who are interested in that particular field. Meet with them, talk to them, and maybe conduct a research project with them. Through my research, I was able to meet with UK women's groups and discuss international issues with them. If you, like I said, if you are interested in a specific country or international politics, but even if you're just interested in domestic politics like the United States, I would just go ahead and also maybe talk to professors about conducting research on US politics.
And Bill, could you clarify, did you say they were an international studies student or an international student?
No, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right, Christina. International students.
Okay.
Studying political science.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think and this is just based on, folks that I've worked with over, I've been in full-time work for 4 years now, not including internships that I had in undergrad. I've worked with people from all over the world. So the fact that you might not be from the US shouldn't hold you back, hopefully, from doing work that you're really passionate about or that you care about. So don't be afraid to keep applying. And actually, I think the fact that you have broad and different experiences might actually make you stick out a lot more than, say, many other candidates when going for internships. So I think one of the things you can take from this is know who you are, know your skills, but also what makes you unique. What's going to make you stand out, and what do your experiences have that set you apart from other candidates when you're going for internships or opportunities? So I know that, like, for instance, by you being an international student, and I'm not to make assumptions here, but because I can't see you or interact with you and get a head nod from you, but I'll assume that you're pretty independent, that you're pretty driven, and that you're also a really hard worker, and you have the ability to really take initiative and do things and get things done no matter where you're from. So yeah, that already shows me that you might be a really unique candidate if I were to play job reviewer here. So it shouldn't hold you back, but also you have probably some really unique attributes that you can contribute as an international student as well.
Yeah, I would say pretty much all the same advice absolutely applies. I don't think it would change the way that you should go about looking for internships. I think some of the advantages, certainly if you speak another language, that's a huge skill that a lot of places would look for. And then a lot of Democratic offices or campaigns, et cetera, it's becoming more common to ask about, like, what can you contribute in terms of diversity to an office, and saying that you're from a different country is a huge plus. I've gotten lots of very interesting answers to that kind of question. So I feel like if you're in a place where you have a really authentic answer, like you clearly have a diverse experience, you're already doing really well.
Anyone else want to jump in here?
I mean, I guess everyone's covered a lot of what I was going to go for. I guess the only thing I would say is, depending on your majors, definitely reach out to different departments. Obviously, the Dole Institute, we're happy to have you join us. We'd love for that to happen. And then the other thing I would say is Lawrence is a very diverse town, and KU is a very international university. And so there's a ton of opportunities in different clubs, groups, city groups within Lawrence itself, and not as much KU. So just, if you take some time and do some research on that, there's probably a lot of opportunities out there. And if you already have done some research on that, maybe take a chance and show up to something and see if it's a good fit.
Okay, I'm going to move along to the next question. It is from Turner. Turner asks, what are the steps to get involved in your community, and is sending emails to political figures a good start?
I'll jump in there because I work for an organization that does a lot of advocacy actions here and there. Yeah, it's definitely a good start. Those things do not hurt and have been from different campaign to different campaign and issue, they have varying levels of success. But absolutely. Reaching out to your local elected officials to take action on various bills or things that you think they need to pass or not pass is always an incredible way. That's also like pretty low commitment and easy to do to make an impact in your community. I also would say you can even go beyond that and get involved in potentially, if you're trying to change policies, community organizing is incredible and so important. And depending on where you're from, you may have some really great community organizing games in town, or maybe there's some really big opportunities to really build collective power to change things that are happening either at the local, state, or federal level. Some really great examples to look to would be Casey Tenants, which I'm involved here in Kansas City, Missouri. We're pretty radical, so I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for, but that's an example of community organizing. But it exists at every single level in every single community, whether they're rural, whether they're large, you name it. It just comes at it with people have power, and so do you.
I'll jump in there, kind of working off of that, just connecting with people. if you're from Kansas or another smaller state, even if you're not, if you're in Kansas, it's a fairly small state in comparison to some other places. But I think people, a lot of times, it's very easy to see politicians, elected officials as these really distant, big, famous people, but they're actually fairly accessible, especially here on the state level. So if you are really passionate about an issue that is a state-minded issue specifically, it is so easy to go to the Capitol, or I don't know what their COVID restrictions are going to be this year, but the legislators there are so accessible. I know Dr. Barbara Ballard is, she works here at the Dole Institute as well. But I mean, it's so easy to talk to them about an issue. A lot of times they're very open to hearing your thoughts on it, or the staff member will hear your thoughts, but a lot of times it's easy to reach them in person as well. So if you're from somewhere like Kansas, where, you know, the state house is 30 minutes from Lawrence, it is so easy to go talk to your legislator and let them know what you think about an issue, or potentially, you know, give them your resume in person.
Yeah, and as far as community involvement, I mean, I think college campuses, again, are a great place to really have all those opportunities to get involved. I mean, there's lots of, the number one thing I would say is try to volunteer, and there's lots of volunteer opportunities you can do locally at KU. I know, I mean, the big event is hosted every year. The CCO, Center for Community Outreach, is a great organization. They have lots of different kinds of programs. You can like tutor in your community, or you can work at a food bank, like any kind of skill set that you have or interest that you have, they've got a program for that. And then I was really involved with alternative breaks on campus. And of course they are known for their breaks where you go elsewhere during like summer or winter break, but they also have lots of great local opportunities like day trips that you can do and volunteer in Lawrence.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Mandy said. All of our state legislators are very accessible, and they do want to hear from you. Lots of times at our college Republican events, when we bring people in to speak, they'll stand there for hours afterwards and just give people their phone numbers, give people their email addresses, because they want to speak to you and they want to hear from you. So my opinion is to just go to like a college Republicans event or a Young Dems event, because I know that they do the same types of things, and that's where you're really going to make these good first impressions and connections.
Okay, Turner, I know that you would like to reach out to some of the panelists by email. If you will email me, wbl@ku.edu. You can also go on the Dole Institute website and find Bill Lacey, the director, and find the email address there. I'll be happy to share those email addresses with you, but I don't want to share them during the program. We have one final question from Catherine. For those of you that have worked on campaigns, what was the, oh, this is a good question. For those of you who have worked on campaigns, what was the most important skill you gained?
I can go first. It would probably be not to take things personally. I have been screamed at on the phone, told to get off of people's property. Mandy has lots of funny stories, but just throughout the whole cycle, just don't take things personally, because eventually, like, it will eventually just turn out and it will all be fine. So my biggest advice is not to take things personally.
That's very good advice too.
I can follow up on that. I have a lot, but probably one of the, I think for some people it'd be like, be flexible. Campaigns are very, I mean, you can put as much structure as you want, but in a campaign cycle, anything goes. And so, you know, things are always changing. So flexibility matters. But I think the most important thing that I've learned is how to just take a step back, look at the big picture, not get caught up in the little things that may go really well or may go really wrong, and just constantly be looking forward to that goal of election day. And then also remember why you're doing it. It's really easy during campaigns, especially when things are going well, to get caught up in the excitement of it and the rush and, the need to win. And I'm super competitive. And so I have to make sure that I am still being human about it. But just to remember why you're doing it, you're interacting with people on a daily basis. I've had someone throw a shoe at me. I had pizza thrown at me. So you're still dealing with people. You don't know what's going on in their day. You don't know what's happening in their life, especially right now. And so just remembering that we're here to serve them and we're trying to put someone in office that you believe is best for them, and then working hard for that goal in the kindest, most, good-natured way that you can. So just making it about people all the time and everything, and it helps your patients and everything else that you do.
I have a few thoughts on this one. I'd say one of the great things about campaigns is that you can move up really quickly and then get amazing leadership skills really early on in your career. So I was working full time during my senior year of college doing as a campus organizing director for the state party. And that's not the kind of job, not the kind of lateral move I could have made in any other type of organization. I mean, Mandy's got a great story too. Those kinds of leadership opportunities are really important and really impressive. So early on in your career. And then the other thing I think campaigns do, besides that, constituent interaction, which is great if you want to work in any kind of public service. We love when interns have previous experience, phone banking and talking to voters, because that's what they do in our office, talk to constituents, is that willingness to be ready for anything and have a positive attitude, just take things as they come. Any first job you have, that's going to make a difference. Even if you leave politics, if you can say, I was grinding at 10 p.m. every night for weeks on end, or I was, being hung up on all the time, just that staying positive and being willing to do any kind of work and not being above any type of work means a lot. Because in your first job, you're going to have grunt work, you're going to have admin work, and people who can remain positive and say that they'll take on any job and they don't feel like they're better than that. That's a great quality to have.
Anybody else want to jump in here?
I have not worked on a campaign, so I can still give advice. But but as far as a campaign goes, I feel like what folks shared is really good advice.
Okay. Well, that brings our program today to a conclusion. I want to thank the Career Center. This is a great opportunity to reach out to KU students and to give them a really good feel for the passion that young people have in politics and for how quickly you can advance into significant roles. You've got students, or you've got ladies on the panel here who have been away from KU for just a few years, who are going to amazing heights, and they're all going to keep going further because they're all extraordinarily talented. So thank you very much, Career Center, for wanting to do this program, and hope we can do it again next year. And I also want to thank all these dynamic women. They are incredible, and they've shared some amazing personal stories today, and I am so proud of all of them, and our entire team at the Dole Institute is. So thank you guys for joining us. Thanks to the audience. Again, if you want to get in touch with any of the panelists, if you will send me an email, I will hook you up with them. And have a great evening. And to the panelists, thank you guys so much for participating with the Dole Institute.
Thank you for joining the Dole Institute of Politics and the University Career Center for the program this afternoon. If you are a student and would like to join the Dole Institute Student Advisory Board, please contact us by emailing dolesab@ku.edu. Join the Dole Institute on Thursday evening for a conversation with United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer. You can access this program on the Dole Institute's YouTube channel, just like today's program. Refer to doleinstitute.org for up-to-date information on all of our upcoming programs. If you enjoyed today's program, please consider becoming a friend of the Dole Institute by donating to help make programs like this possible. We hope you enjoyed this afternoon's program. Thank you, and we will virtually see you next time.